It's time for episode number 12 of the NPH Hour here on News Talk Saga 960 AM. I'm your host, Jason Tom, and guess what? Basketball is officially back here in Canada. This week, the Canadian Elite Basketball League began its third season with the league's first game in the nation's capital, officially marking the return of competitive basketball to our country for the first time since last September when the CEBL played in a 2-week bubble. Next up, it's the Canadian senior men's national team who will take to the floor next week in Victoria, British Columbia for an Olympic qualifying tournament that has been delayed since last summer due to the pandemic. It's a tournament that has 6 teams. Canada is in a group with China and Greece, where the top 2 teams will advance to match up with the top 2 teams from Group B, consisting of Turkey, the Czech Republic, and Uruguay. Only the winner of the tournament will earn a berth in the upcoming Olympics. So as is the case with most international tournaments, the margin for error is thin. And one bad game or one bad quarter, heck, sometimes it comes down to how many points you scored or were scored against you. Every year, intrigue surrounds who will be on the final roster to represent Canada, and this year has been no different. Jamal Murray and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander are both out due to injury. Those are both players that have been involved with the national team program in the past and are massive to this country. While a player that has been missing in the red and white for the last 5+ years, Andrew Wiggins, is back with the team. The final roster does not need to be made public until the night before Canada's first game in Victoria. And considering the team has been in Tampa and away from the media spotlight outside of Zoom conference calls, the program has once again been very secretive on who will be on the final team. General Manager Rowan Barrett is a veteran of international competition as a player and now as a GM, and he understands the value of keeping opponents guessing. And questioning who will be on the roster is a great way to do that. But we still have to talk about the roster options the team has in order to earn a last chance berth to the Olympics. So I've brought on North Pole Hoops lead scouting correspondent, Efe Ashakah. And Efe, when you looked at the invite list of first 21 and then 19 players, which will then be down to 14 in Victoria, positionally speaking, where are the strengths and weaknesses in your opinion on this squad?
First, I want to kind of give a shout out to the guys who did show up for camp. When you go on social media, you see this thing like, oh, this person didn't show up, this person didn't show up, but we need to actually give props to the guys who are there and take pride in that. This is the most talented roster we've had ever, arguably. But to answer your question in terms of, we'll start with weaknesses. So weaknesses, we can start at the big spot. What are we kind of getting from names such as Trey Lyles? Trey Lyles with the San Antonio Spurs, and he didn't play the second half of the year. Who knows, it could be injury, kind of just like lost his way in the rotation. I'm hearing that he looks good in camp. He's passing the ball well, he's shooting well, defending. So will he play a big role in BC? Then you get to guys like Andrew Nicholson, who's been a part of the men's national team for a while. He's one of those guys that's just a staple. I expect him to kind of do his thing there. And then Anthony Bennett, who's a huge question mark, but he always seems to be his best self in Team Canada. And I'm hearing he looks great as well. Like his body looks good, athletic, finishing, shooting well. So I'm definitely expecting some good things out of him. And hopefully he can kind of still go on with that redemption story. Other weaknesses, shooting. So the guys are going to take up the chunk of the minutes on the guard, kind of wing, perimeter, like the RJs, the Lou Dorts, the Wiggins. What's the shooting going to look like? They've done a good job over the years being more efficient, but the FIBA game is a completely different thing. Can they shoot that upper 38, 39, 40% and cash in consistently? That's going to be a big thing to look out for. Strengths-wise, again, this is the most talented roster we ever had, especially on the perimeter and on the wing. Like having the guys like RJ, Nikhil, Lou, Michael Mulder is a great look. And then staples like Corey as well, who brings that veteran experience in. Like you can't replace that. And then coaching, Nick Nurse. Everyone seems to have an opinion about him. He's kind of that, that wild guy from the outside looking in or whatever it may be, but he's a proven champion. I'm looking for Nick Nurse to put guys in the best position to be successful.
And that's all you can ask for a head coach. And Canada basketball, men's and women's on both sides, have always done a great job involving younger players in their senior programs. This year, more than ever, 4 NCAA players invited to the men's camp. Who has the best chance to make this team, in your opinion?
Okay, best chance to make the team? I would say Bediako, just because the depth we're kind of lacking at that center spot. He would be someone who could gain great experience as he heads to Alabama. That would be great for him. He's been a part of the national team anyways, so they're pretty familiar with him. The guy I would love to see get in would be Ben Maturin. I think he's a stud. So Ben is one of those guys where you don't know until you see it like up close and personal, or you're watching the film. So anyone who's ever like been around Ben or has seen him up close and personal will tell you he might not just be the next guy from Quebec, like he might be the next Canadian dude who gets to that next level. Like the way we talk about Shea, the way we talk about Jamal, the way we talk about RJ, like he's that good. So as a freshman at Arizona, Ben averaged like 11 and 5 on 47% shooting from the field, nearly 42% from three. And he was just mostly just kind of standing in the corner. Like he didn't really touch the ball as much, but was super productive. Like Ben, to me, in my opinion, could have left for the draft this year and been a late first, maybe early second, and got into the league because he's that good, he's that talented. But his mindset is, I want to come back and I want to be the first Quebec dude to hit the lottery. Like that tells you the kind of player he is and the kind of person he is. And I think he's someone who would benefit definitely from the experience of being alongside the best in this country. But then for moving forward, like he's one of those guys where he may be a top dog in a couple of years from now. Like you never know what could happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. That's great intel. And it's funny that you mentioned Bediako, Charles Bediako, just a monster at, 7-footer, near 7-footer at least. And he could be used kind of late second games, just guarding the inbounder and not getting huge minutes, but getting an opportunity with the squad. So, really interesting. You brought him up, and, so much can happen in these tournaments, a slip on the floor here, foul trouble there. It's hard to predict, but, I have to ask, do you think they're going to win the tourney and qualify?
They better. No. Again, like the theme is always going to be, this is the most talented roster we've had, like ever. Despite Shea not being there, despite Jamal not being there, despite Tristan not being there, despite Boucher, Ken Birch, Pangos, like Dylan Brooks, like there's so many guys who aren't there, but still, this is the best roster we've had.
Switching gears here a little bit, I know you've been scouting our Canadians in advance of the NBA draft, and while I don't expect the Raptors to take a Canadian picking 4th overall, there are a few Peel region guys that are seeing their stock go up playing in front of NBA scouts and front office executives. Like what have you been seeing? Who's been standing out?
Definitely, man. It's been great to watch the 2 Canadians, Josh Primo and AJ Lawson, at the combine. I guess we could start with AJ. So AJ got into the G League Elite camp and had to work his way in to getting that invite from the NBA Combine. He was one of the top 5 to 6 dudes at the G League Elite camp that put on a good show, got that invitation. AJ's testing really well. Like he's in that upper echelon of guys, vertical, speed, agility. He looks like one of the best athletes on the court. There's a lot to build off of. Like a lot of people, the evaluators, the scouts, I'm not sure he was really on their radars. And now he's kind of worked himself into that spot, being on the combine stage where it's just like, okay, he's one of the top 60, 70 prospects. What's next for him? Like, what is his potential? How can he contribute to an NBA team? I think these are the answers that we need to find out in the next day or so. And I know he's looking forward to that challenge. Josh Primo, it's crazy. He's 18 years old. He's so poised. Watching the first game today, like he's playing at his own pace. Like he's not rushed. Like I like the way he's kind of using ball screens, distributing, playmaking. You really cannot rush him. Like he just kind of gets into the lane, with that long kind of Euro step, gets to the rim. He does stuff like that, and he can shoot it. Everybody knows he can shoot it. So he's super skilled, and he's a great kid. So it wouldn't shock me to see him get a look late first. I think he's that good. He's that talented. And then obviously with the age itself.
Primo, just 18 years old at that camp. Amazing to see what's still coming down the pipe. And I know it's only going to get better. And later in the show, I'm interviewing Melvin Ejim. He speaks about how important representation is to the next generation. And we learn actually that Melvin Ejim is not going to be with the team. We'll get into that a little bit later. And you actually broke that story on Twitter on Thursday night. You're helping young student athletes chase their dreams at the post-secondary level. That's the position that you're in. And it's in a sport where a large majority of those that play basketball, I mean, they look like you. And you're fairly close in age, and likely you share similar life experiences. This position is not something that you take lightly, do you?
No, I can't. Just because there's a lot of influence, there's a lot of people watching, and we kind of take a step back and kind of my why. It's crazy because I have this conversation with people now that I've kind of grown into this role. Different coaches, players, parents, just like the community in general, and it's kind of just like, okay, like, how did this kind of happen? Because I'm stepping into the role where a guy like Elias made a huge impact in the community, right? For me, I didn't come in expecting anything. I grinded my way in, and I just love what I do. I love the game. I love people who love the game. I love talking about the game. I love hearing different perspectives. I consider myself a junkie, and it's always been that way. So to be that person and have that kind of influence where the kids are looking at me, and it's just like, wow, like, it's not just about always playing the game. Like, you can do other things than just playing the game. Like, you can be a scout, you can be a GM. It's opening your mind to different possibilities that you otherwise wouldn't think are available to you. Like, I had to go through that. And I would want anyone to know that anything is possible. You just got to put in the work. Like, sacrifices come along the way, but if you just kind of stick to it, that grind, and just know and see what's out there for you, just visualize, anything is possible.
Efe Ashakah, a name everyone will get to know sooner than later in the Canadian basketball community. You have my full support, and thank you for coming on the NPH Hour.
Appreciate it, JT.
You can follow Efe for some great intel on who is next coming out of Canada. His Twitter handle is at ESHAKAH. We will continue on the Canada basketball beat after the break when I'm joined by Melvin Ejim, a player who answered the call for his country for an 8th consecutive year until just days ago when a family matter forced him to withdraw. But his passion on why playing for Canada means so much to him and his family is really worth your time. Stay tuned with us right here on News Talk Saga 960 AM.